Yesterday, I admit that I must write this retroactively because yesterday night I had to spend all night doing a Spanish project. So at the end of the day, yesterday I had to spend the rest of the time sleeping. So we'll start now. Yesterday, I didn't wake up early, so I had to hurry to school. First period, obviously, biggest issue is the Spanish project. I already released this earlier to you guys. So I was sleepy during that period. I stayed up all night, so I was barely working. My mind was already on reduced social bandwidth. I was tired. Thankfully, I already did the project at night. So that was a substitute, and I came late though. But I don't think I was marked late, oddly enough. So second period, we did PE and I continued on running and all the basic jogging. One of the English second language learners keeps saying like sukamaidak, which practically means something that couples do to each other. It's a microcosm of the teen environment that I say because a lot of people say stuff and they'll get punished for it. I should have stopped him, but I didn't realize in the moment, so oh well. Third period, this time I did a question assignments covering sunlight, weather, and the role of sunlight in Earth's rotation in heat transfer and season. So asked the teacher at the end of the period about the ice protest that was planned at my school that was going on. Oddly enough, he said that it was nonsensical in the way structurally, asking why not just do it on the weekends. He didn't say anything politically, but I infer that he does understand the students' protests and why they do it, but he speaks logistically and structurally. And why do it during school? Why do it during instructional time? And obviously, I don't defend protesters, but generally, to get like 1,000 students to protest in the weekend, you need a really tight network of people, grassroots network. School acts as an anchor because not everyone is available, but because this is school, a lot of people use the idea of protest to do other things. So it touches onto a slippery slope constitutionally and structurally during school, and I'll connect this later on. It connects to another way of metaphorical plate tectonics and social plate tectonics. I'll see that later on though. We did a test for fourth period talking about the Indian Revolution, Mexico's Revolution, and the Russian Revolution. So not much here. I didn't get a good grade though, but thankfully, I'll wait on the actual grade because my teacher didn't grade the questions. Lunch period, it went well. Someone else wasn't here today, one of my friends. So to my friend, I apologize to you. You were doing a little poem, and you need for your class, and how much you trust your friend, and how much they've been with you. I practice that right in front of me. What I do is that I was laughing, and I apologize not because of your recitation, but because every time you started speaking, I just kept thinking of something funny. Think of the I show speed meme. If I was thinking about that when you were beginning to start. And historically, about me, sometimes when someone presents in front of a class, there's always an air of violence. Or not violence, there's always an air of silence. And in that air of silence, I just laugh because it's silent. Like, it's the space where it's awkward. Like, no one's speaking anything. It's just like, I just gag a laugh. It's a vacuum of air before people speak, and I just leak out laughing because of it. I don't mean to laugh at you again. I hope your friendship with your friend lasts until the end of high school and maybe a lifetime. But unlucky for me, I don't have a physical anchor like your high school friend or before. So Godspeed to you guys. But as I said, I don't mean to laugh at you. I didn't mean to, and I do apologize for that. Anyways, sixth period. I witnessed an ice protest, and I'm going to go on a little bit of a long tangent here. So the teacher and the class will say because everyone was watching and recording the protest, students genuinely just left class right for the protest, and I caught secondhand primary footage of students at their protest signs walking out. Lots of students were late, but people really went up in the protest signs. Unfortunately, yet fortunately, no 6-7 signs because this is a political protest talking about real issues. I didn't participate, but I did witness it in real time. And what I infer for data intelligence is that this is a complex mix of societal issues, teen protests, and so much more. And what I feared structurally about the protest is that if there's a person who is armed with like a machete, or someone who's armed with some sort of deadly weapon, or even a car, and if they decide not to do very good things to the students, there's no security protection. There's no EMS nearby. I feared that because a lot of students could get harmed. At the outside school walls, security isn't really going to protect them. The thing is I also fear that students would use it as an excuse to escape fifth and sixth period. I argue it because both of these are real issues. There's no security, and people just use it as an excuse to get picked up or leave school. Politically, as I say, I will not talk about any position or support any side because even if I was to say something that is objectively correct, people would still attack me personally, especially with a lot of the misinformation and polarization going around. So we'll talk about this in a third person view. I'll reduce my bias significantly here just to keep calm. What I infer is that the people around me are protesting something that they know is unfair. They're fighting against an ingrained issue that covers a hotspot debate between Republicans, Independents, and Democrats. It's the ICE deportations and the protests that are going on about it. Structurally, I hope that some of these people are not just following the crowd just because, but because they themselves are passionately in support of it. A lot of people in my teenage years, like you guys are still developing, my brain too. So misinformation and extreme reactions might spread, and I'm worried about that. I hope that at least what the protesters mean is that I hope what they say, both online and online, is meant something from the heart. It's a true stance, and it's not something that's just emotional. So that's what I'm hoping right there. Logistically speaking, other than structurally, the school itself is at yet another complex truth. Like plate tectonics, this is like a convergence boundary between the sea and the mountain and the mountain, and the school, and maybe a strike split boundary. The school students' population of diversity has a lot of opinions, a lot of sides, and a lot of differing ways of life, versus that of the school's rigid schedule and structure. It hits at multiple faults, so let me explain this a little in depth. Students during the week do not have as much. There's instructional classwork, and people do need to learn to graduate. A lot of people have work to do. It is important, but the thing is that this clashes with time because as I connect during third period and my teacher is saying during that time, students may not have time during the weekend. But they are conditionally exercising an intrinsic right that is partially derived by the Enlightenment, which is freedom of speech and protest, which was eventually adopted into the American Constitution. But it clashes with the school because the teachers need to earn money. School time needs to go. Instructional time needs to continue, and people need to be taught, of course, to graduate. And there doesn't seem to be a clear cut solution in this. If the school was to host a protest, people might paint the school as politically divisive or politically polarizing. But in the protest, inversely, there will be more security. There will be EMS. There will be police involved in case something happens. There will be more security. There's also differing political views, even if it's neutral. The thing is that my teacher said during a different period, they said they don't support it, but they also say democracy and that students are protesting for something that they know is unfair. He doesn't mind if the students don't come to class, or so long as the parents let the teacher know. But then again, another teacher says that it's unfair for instructional time, that he may issue punishments such as missed class time or maybe a tardy. Parents, on the other hand, actually supported their kids to go and attend, as it is an expression of constitutional rights. Some other students say that their kid attending school, they don't want them to get distracted with the protest and they should stay in school, just prioritize learning. The thing is that the views here remain mostly neutral but broad, but yet it's so different. What conclusion am I supposed to come to then? Teachers cannot constitutionally punish students for missing a class for a protest, because politically speaking, even though instructionally they can, but it's unfair. What I say is that we should punish the ones who are skipping, but then again, how are you supposed to know the ones who are really looking to be genuine? How are we supposed to differentiate from those people who are genuine and passionate with their stance versus those who are just using it as an excuse to skip class? I mean, constitutionally and historically, schools cannot punish students for expressing their own rights, protesting. Instructionally, students are technically missing class. This is not the case of a student missing class going to McDonald's or using it to get coffee. This is a protest about a real political issue. Another side of the parents and institution rather than say that they're missing class. But on the other hand, political activists say that no, they're protesting for something that they know is unfair under the constraints of teen life, puberty, and schedules that they may have. In the oceanic continental boundary and the strike slip boundary metaphor, when we apply this onto what's going on now, you see how much friction is going on right here? Both sides in this case have valid points, but symbolically, some subduct on their picture and go back to school, but some keep going. And in this case, they create mountains symbolically. And again, I'm not here to reduce the idea of social plate tectonics to the theory of plate tectonics. What I'm trying to do is that I'm just trying to make logical sense of this here in a metaphor that I could digest and understand. And the final accounting is that to all of the students who protested, all I wish is Godspeed to you all. Now, in fifth period itself, we started the book Lord of the Flies, and how a group of boys on a crashed plane ended up joining together and creating the mini tribe of an island. I zoned out, to be honest, reading the book from 7 through 19, but I got through. I bet the teacher, again, some students came late, so obviously that was true. Anyway, sixth period, there was a substitute today, so I did a math assignment, and I was finished, so nothing else to say about this one. Later on that day, not much happened. I didn't attend the library since my body was in rest mode, so I had to go to sleep right as I came back from school, but my dad was taking it over, so eventually when he left, I went to sleep immediately. But I do want to describe something that happened personally to me yesterday, covering the door crisis of January 27, 2026 in a different video. It's about my complex parents again, and I'll talk about that then.